Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. You probably heard of emotional intelligence. This is something that tends to come up when different kinds of intelligence are discussed. Emotional intelligence is also known as emotional quotient or EQ. So you may have heard about it by that name. You have heard of either emotional intelligence or of emotional quotient or EQ. You may be thinking, what is emotional intelligence? Well, basically, it's the person's ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions. So it's all about emotions, recognizing, understanding, and being able to manage emotions. It's not difficult to see why a healthy level of emotional intelligence is valuable in any area of life, but especially in the workplace. But to be honest, emotional intelligence at its finest goes beyond just being able to recognize, understand, and manage emotions. Research suggests that emotional intelligence influences how well employees are able to interact with one another, manage stress, and navigate through things such as conflict. Clearly, when it comes to EQ or emotional intelligence, this is something that's valuable at every level within the workplace, whether we're looking at leadership, management, or non-management positions. EQ has an influence on communications, relationships, stress management, and even problem solving. The good news is that emotional intelligence is something that can be improved. Everyone can improve their emotional intelligence regardless of where they are right now. A good place to start is to be more aware, more self-aware. So pay attention to your own feelings. Be able to recognize your own feelings and be able to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses when it comes to this arena, when it comes to your own feelings. So self-awareness is key, and it's a good place to start when working on improving your emotional intelligence. The next thing is to practice self-regulation. First and foremost, you must find healthy ways of relieving and releasing stress, processing stress in healthy ways, especially work-related stress. Being able to think about whatever's happening, about a situation, before you act is key. And that includes both speaking and any kind of physical actions. So think before you speak or act in any way. When you think before you speak or act, you're much more likely to respond rather than react. And this is key when we talk about self-regulation. And strive for self-control, meaning try to remain level-headed, try to remain cool rather than getting upset, reacting, overreacting, flying off the handle. You want to work on that self-regulation piece. When it comes to improving your emotional intelligence, it's also important to work on your communication skills and your social skills. You want to practice active listening, where you're actually listening to the other person when they're speaking with you, rather than formulating a response or interrupting them, cutting them off, whatever the case may be. Active listening is actually processing what they're saying, and when it's your opportunity to speak, to respond, you also have the opportunity to confirm that you understood correctly what it is that they're saying, what it is that they're trying to convey to you. So active listening is key. You'll want to be able to pick up on nonverbal cues as well. That's key when it comes to effective communications. While a person's words may be conveying one message, may be saying one thing, their facial expression, their body language may be sending a completely different message. So if you want to be good at communicating with others, those are the kinds of things that you have to consider, you have to be good at, you have to practice. Another thing to consider is having empathy for others. So work on approaching other people, approaching situations, approaching conversations with a certain level of empathy for the other person or other people. It can't all be about you and just your point of view, or approaching a situation expecting to convince someone that you're right, or expecting to win a fight. Effective communications and effective social skills have to include your ability to have empathy for other people and to work that empathy into the situation, into the conversation, into the social exchange. And lastly, when you work on improving your emotional intelligence, stay away from gossip and office drama. There is no way that getting involved in that kind of thing can help your emotional intelligence to grow and advance. So it's a simple tip, but a very effective one. Stay away from the drama, stay away from the gossip. It's no surprise that a healthy level of emotional intelligence is key when it comes to the quality of our experiences, not only within the workplace, but also just throughout life in general. The good news is that everybody can improve and refine their own emotional intelligence, regardless of where they are today. There are steps that you can take, things that you can do, and the reward can be very promising. As I've mentioned, research shows that people do better within their work environment, within their relationships at work, within their achievements at work, within their careers advancing and progressing. And that applies to people at every level within an organization. So in order to improve your emotional intelligence, roll up your sleeves and be able to invest some time and effort into this journey. But the payoff can be quite promising. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Emotional intelligence, or emotional quotient, as it is also known, or EQ for short, is an important part of any of our experiences, especially when it comes to our work experiences. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions. And research has shown that employees with higher emotional intelligence levels, or higher EQs, are able to communicate better, they're able to handle stress better, they're able to resolve problems better or find solutions to problems, resolve conflict better. So there are many benefits to having a higher EQ. It can help with your everyday experiences at work, but it can also help with advancing you at your organization, advancing you in terms of your career. And this is true and equally valuable for everybody at the organization at every level, from leadership and management to non-management types of employees. So it's a good idea for everyone to invest some time and effort on improving emotional intelligence. In order to improve your EQ, self-awareness is a good place to start, but also practicing self-control or self-regulation is important. And of course, working on your communication skills and your social skills are integral in terms of improving emotional intelligence. As this week unfolds, I invite you to think about your own emotional intelligence, but also the intelligence, the EQ of those around you. How do you compare to others? What are you seeing in terms of your own behaviors and how, whatever level your emotional intelligence is at, is serving you, or maybe is hindering you, maybe it's not serving you, and what can you do to improve your own EQ? This is something that can help you within the workplace, but also outside of work. And once you have a good handle on your own EQ, you can help others in your life, in your personal life, maybe your spouse, your children, and others who may be interested in their own self-improvement, of course. But this is a good opportunity to do a little bit of self-assessing as far as your own emotional intelligence and see how you can improve and take care of not only your own experiences at work, your own happiness, and your own future in terms of your own career, but also potentially improve the environment for those around you. For those of you who experience this podcast in an audio-only version, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, Stress Free with Dr. G, where you can find the video version of the podcast. In addition to the video version of the podcast, you can also find videos that focus on stress management. So check out Stress Free with Dr. G on YouTube. The link for that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.